Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Jon Lovett.
I'm Tommy Vietor.
On today's show, former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki stops by to talk about the Republican primary, Joe Biden's 2024 strategy, and her new show on MSNBC. And later, Donald Trump warns his indictment could lead to violence and celebrates the January 6th attacks in Waco, Texas. Joining us now, former White House Press Secretary and current host of Inside with Jen Psaki, which airs Sundays at noon Eastern on MSNBC, our old pal Jen Psaki. Jen, welcome back.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good. This is your first PSA appearance after the White House, right? You haven't done one.
That is true, and I'm now wearing jeans, and I'm feeling a lot more casual and laid back. So there you
Love
go.
that.
A transition of sorts.
Psaki, congrats on the monster ratings for the first episode.
Monster.
Well, thank you. One episode down, guys. Many to go. Let's do a second episode. I don't know. How many episodes have you guys done? You could give me a little advice.
So many.
Oh, yeah.
Most are pretty
many.
forgettable.
But now we've got it down, you know?
Yeah. Trump, bad.
Trump is so bad,
is
but
bad.
you can't take it for granted. That's the key thing. Got to stay in the fight.
Speaking of Trump, we were just talking about him celebrating the insurrection at his Waco rally and threatening violence if he's indicted. Fair to say that probably doesn't play well in the general, but do you think that's a winning message in a Republican primary? What was your reaction to the weekend's events?
I mean, sometimes I feel like people say things on television or just in general, like, look at Trump. He's just ahead of all of us. He's playing three-dimensional chess, or whatever analogy is used. And at the end of the day, playing footage from the insurrection. He also had January 6th participants do a performance. It was recorded, but that was also a part of the rally in Waco, which I think somebody from his campaign said something like, I don't know if they said it was a coincidence or something along those lines. Whatever it was, it just didn't ring to be true. And it's so on the nose, the analogy of Waco, given that it was a religious cult or a cult, that was, and there was a standoff with law enforcement. It's like he's sending this huge message from all of this craziness to his people. I think that's clearly what he's doing. So I don't think that it is magical, amazing politics, just like I don't think his according to his campaign, that him wanting to do a perp walk and get photos and make that be a big moment seems like great politics to me. Sometimes he's not the master genius politician that people give him credit to be.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. You had a great segment on your show this weekend about Ron DeSantis flip-flopping on Ukraine. What do you make of the recent round of stories about Republican operatives and donors already second-guessing his campaign? What do you think's going on with his candidacy?
Well, a couple of months ago when he was kind of up in the polls, he reminded me a little bit of, do we all remember Wesley Clark when he got into the race?
Yeah.
2004.
Yeah.
I remember, because a bunch of us were on the Kerry campaign. It was like, oh my God, Wesley Clark is getting in. What are we going to do? Right? It looked good on paper. And it seemed like it was going to kind of mess up or change up the race. And it really didn't. And with Ron DeSantis, the thing was that he was people were projecting upon him what they wanted him to be. And I remember a story, I don't remember where it was, but from November, December, of some donors who attended an event with him. And many of them came out and said, I don't think he was at his best today. And it was like, well, have you seen him before? No. It's like, well.
So what's his best?
So, I think this is like he's now, even though he hasn't announced, he's kind of in that stage of this where people are starting to ask questions and you actually have to have policy positions and positions on things. And when you're not authentic about it, people recognize that. So that's kind of all playing out for him. But I don't know. He hasn't figured out how to go after Trump, clearly. But he also seems to, and I talked about this on the show yesterday, he also hasn't kind of figured out what his own view is of things. And that's not just a problem sometimes on the Republican side. There's problems on the Democratic side on that occasionally as well. But, that's never a good message to send to voters. So
no labels, Jen Psaki.
He's in search of a lane. I think he's in search of a lane. People are going to still, what's the old term? Like lift the hood, kick the tires. All the things. They're starting to kick the tires. And I don't know, the tires may not all be functioning or something. I'm not sure what the analogy is there.
The Wesley Clark comparison is good, and I hadn't thought about it, but that he actually really did get on an airplane at the very start of his campaign with a sweater, and it was a campaign that was being just entirely about the vote on the Iraq War. And he was asked on that flight, his very first campaign event, would you have voted for the Iraq War? And he just didn't have an answer.
Not only did not have an answer, but he ended up screaming for his press secretary to come help him.
Mary!
Help
Wasn't
me!
it Mary?
Yeah,
Right.
something like that.
Or Howard Schultz. Remember? It was like, oh, when he gets in the race, it's all going to be over. He's going to bring the world together. It's not exactly what happened.
Yeah,
So
he was a drip.
Or on the... or on the Republican side, in many different primaries, especially 2016, Rick Perry, remember?
Fred Thompson.
Fred Thompson, yeah.
Herman
Marco
Cain.
Rubio.
Rudy Giuliani. Whatever
Michelle
happened to
Bachmann
that guy?
led for a while.
Herman Cain, at least he had a moment there.
Yeah, he did have a moment.
You know?
He
did he
have
have
a
the
moment.
999 plan?
Yeah.
Am
He
I
did have
remembering this
999.
correctly?
Yeah.
Oh, see, we're all kind of remembering. I vaguely remember what that was, but that's all affiliated.
Yeah.
for
Also
me.
R.I.P.
999.
Herman Cain, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Forgot about that.
May his memory be a blessing.
Yeah. You guys have anything for Jen?
No, I actually honestly did not prepare any
Okay.
questions.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
I'm just here to hang.
But he did work very hard on his joke about Howard Schultz, or it just like came to him in the moment.
No, I'm here to ad lib.
He's prioritizing where he does his work.
I was doing a lot of work with ChatGPT and didn't help.
Yeah.
Saki, how you feeling about going over to the media side? We're still torn about it. We're political hacks at heart, but now you have like a real job at a real network where people are counting on you to get it right.
If you guys are torn about it, you're about, how far are you into this journey? 7 years?
7 years.
Hundreds
Thanks for
of
calling it a
episodes?
journey.
Oof.
Well, what was keeping it 1600?
Keeping it. Yeah. Those were the early days.
I remember the OG version. Yeah.
And back then we were like, Trump, what's going to happen? This
Remember-
is silly.
Right.
Remember, Tommy, we were
Is this
sitting
guy
at
going to be around for that long?
Yeah, no.
Probably not.
Now we're
Here
like,
we are.
will the indictment stop him?
there was a headline there's a headline in CNN today that said Trump leans into extremism as legal woes mount, and that could have been appearing every day for the last 7 years.
Should we let Jen answer the question that
Yeah,
Tommy
sorry.
asked her?
Yeah.
Sure, yes. Well, I mean, the adjustment has been in part that, I mean, I have worked in the White House more than anywhere else in my life, which is a weird thing to say, but I've spent more time there consistently than any other job. So
yeah.
part of coming here was also just coming somewhere new that was like a big company with lots of people. And the first time I did a special or an election night special, whatever it may have been in the fall, I remember being nervous, like I was like the new kid at the lunch table. I brought like a bag of snacks. I was like, if I have snacks for people, maybe they'll want to be my friend. I don't know. So there's been an adjustment like that and just learning kind of a new place. And then there's an adjustment to things like, as you guys know, because you are experienced, mediaites at this point in time, there are things like commercials. You can't just keep talking. People will tell you to wrap and stop. It's all, those are things I'm learning, all the technical stuff. But, I will say that there is a nerdy similarity. I mean, obviously journalism is very different. And what I'm doing, I'm not trying to hide from what I've worked on, where I've been, what I think I can bring to the table in this job at all. So in that sense, I'm not trying to be even-handed about abortion or who you can marry or any of that. That's not what anyone's asking me to do or what I'm going to do. But I will say, how when you work in government, how you have like a bunch of people wandering around who are policy experts on different things, and they there's a lot of nerds flowing around and they know about different things. There is a weird similarity to that, right? Where it's like, you'll run into somebody who's like doing like a documentary on NASA, like in the elevator, right? And then, you run into somebody who's just been in Georgia. So there's a cool aspect of people who are just smart and interesting, trying to get to the bottom of stuff and learn more, and different layers of nerdiness. So in that sense, it's similar to government.
Cool.
Did you call other trailblazing politicos turned journalists like Sean Spicer for advice before the show?
I have not, although I have a great Sean Spicer story.
Please.
Ooh.
It's a small town, right? It was, for a long time this was pre-Trump, obviously. He would be one of those people back in 2012, before I went to the campaign, where you'd be in a green room together or you'd be doing television together, right? He was kind of a run-of-the-mill Republican operative for a while there. early on in this last iteration in the White House, I did, I think it was Wait, Don't Tell Me, that show. And I talked about how when I needed to get a good laugh, I would pull up the video of him shimmying in his green shirt, from Dancing with the Stars. And he, to his credit, sent me a signed photo of him shimmying in that shirt.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Is that hanging up on the wall behind you in one of the
It
frames?
is not,
Oh, okay.
but I did think that was a little funny, even though no, I would not call him for advice, and we don't exactly have the same approach to anything. So
That's sort of like a good maybe bathroom picture. You need a piece of art for the bathroom.
That's good. It's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do with this show that you think is like different than other cable shows?
I mean, one of the things that we've already started doing and we're going to do more of is spending time or a couple of hours with politicians or elected officials, or not even necessarily. Like, I'd love to do this with athletes or musicians or others, to figure out what they do in their normal day. We call it weekend routines. So it's, what do you drink? What kind of coffee are you drinking? What show are you watching? But also, what do you like in your normal life? What drives you? What is your background? What do you like to do for fun? And you learn so much about people. I mean, I think it's true for all of us. Having spent 2 decades, I can't believe that's true, working for politicians of all different stripes, they're human beings, right? They're imperfect. They have funny quirks about them. I mean, you guys talk a lot about the funny Obama quirks. As much as he was an amazing president, he's got some funny quirks, right? Yeah. They all do. And that part of them is so humanizing that, we did a piece with Maxwell Frost yesterday. Such an amazing, and it's great. Inspiring too. I mean, you think everything's terrible in Washington and government's horrible. One, I don't believe that. I think government and people who get into public service are vast majority do it for the right reasons and do it because they want to make the world better. I mean, he's just like such an inspiring 26-year-old who is like outspoken on gun violence. He's just guts. And he's going to be around for a while. Where I'm going to spend tomorrow with Danica Rome. And Danica,
big friend of the pod here.
Big friend of the pod. But there's so many interesting people out there. So that's one of the things we're trying to do. The other thing is, and this has been really fun. I almost start to like giggle because I get so excited about delivering some of these as we're working through them. Is these segments we're calling "Don't Freak Out," which is basically, sometimes it's like everybody's telling you it's a 5-alarm fire. There are some 5-alarm fires, okay? Of course there are. We're living in an era where the former president just like had insurrectionist video like at his rally. So I mean, like, let's be real. But everything is not, right? And sometimes we can take the temperature down and explain stuff. So those are some of the things. But really, I'm excited to go out and spend time with people, in the environments where they live and work, and share a little bit more about who they are, because I think that's what people don't often get to see about politicians.
Are you covering the Gwyneth Paltrow trial? I think she's being scammed. I really do.
I've seen some clips of this, and I don't really understand what happened, if I'm being totally honest.
You should have me on. I'll walk you through it.
All right. Love it. You're invited anytime.
I've watched hours of depositions.
Yeah.
You have? Of just this trial?
Just the Gwyneth trial.
Into someone else.
Oh, yeah. I tried to read like 3 paragraphs about it, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Why do I care about this?
I like it.
I know that you're out of the White House, but I'm going to ask you to put your Biden hat back on for a second.
Yeah.
Our old friend Hans Nichols at Axios just wrote about how the president plans to offer a contrast to the nuttiness of the Republican primary that we were just talking about. He said, quote, Biden's advisors are convinced the president can overcome his low approval rating by outlining his infrastructure plan Congress passed last year, project by project and city by city. First question, do you think that's really the strategy?
Well, first of all, I've known Hans a long time. When I was working like in the House, he was working for the Hill. That is not the sexiest description of a campaign strategy right there, right? So I'm not sure Hans is going to be hired to do a campaign slogan. I think the point is, though, one, I mean, the contrast is a little bit inherent right now. I mean, they don't have to do anything right now except have Joe Biden be president and go meet with foreign leaders and sign bills and host events at the White House, because the other side is so cuckoo.
Yeah.
And so in many ways, the crazy versus the this is way better and way more competent is happening on its own, which I think is part of the reason why he hasn't announced yet, or why he doesn't. I don't know that there's the same urgency that there was 6 to 8 months ago, because there aren't other people clearly I mean, maybe some people will, but at this point, jumping in the primary. And right now, the thing about being president and running for re-election is that in itself is an advantage. You have the music, you have the plane, all the things, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the infrastructure, that description, what I do think that how I think they're thinking about this, or if I were sitting in there, how I'd be thinking about this is a lot of what they've accomplished. People don't understand what the IRA is, which, by the way, is just like a terrible acronym for anything. Acronyms are generally terrible. They don't really understand like the Inflation Reduction Act, even if you spell it out. They do understand if there is like a bridge being built in their community, if their road is easier to go over, if there's a cool renewable climate project that they can get excited about. And so it is smart because there's still an element of all politics is local that I think is very true to who Joe Biden is, but also it's how they can do their accomplishments in a way that's not just like IRA bumper stickers, which no one knows what that is. Although Tommy's like thinking about like the Ireland's right now.
Yeah,
I'm IRA.
Go after some Protestants in a minute. Just to push you on that a little bit, Psaki. I mean, every president is like gets told by their advisors, like, sir, you're doing amazing things. Your communications team is just not selling it well enough. And that's what we're going to fix this next quarter, right? And so, that happened to us when we worked for Obama, and it pissed us off. When Joe Biden took office and they passed a ton of COVID stimulus money, his advisors were out there saying, look, Obama screwed up by not selling the Recovery Act and the stimulus well enough. Joe's going to hit the road and we're really going to sell it. And then we fast forward to today and his approval is at 38%. And it's just sort of like, is it an antiquated idea to think that you can do these road shows and really sell these granular projects?
Well, no, I think that's fair. I mean, I think it's a little different just to like unpack all of that, because part of his accomplishment, what he's done to date, is these big bills, right? So it's not the totality of the only thing you do, but it's part of what they can lay the groundwork on now before he announces, which is to help inform people in communities what he's actually done, right? And that's more about the politics of it, I think, than it is about like when you're in the White House, do you sell it? Is your comms team terrible? I've like long joked, and if I ever do this, I will make you guys mugs. I want like an NACP, which stands for not a comms problem.
I like that. I want one. I want two.
I used to joke with my team when I was the press secretary that like we needed that mug. No one really knew what it meant, but we knew what it meant, because it's like sometimes it's not a comms problem, it's a policy problem, by the way. Anyway, I do think once he gets in, and once it is an actual contrast with a candidate, an opponent, it becomes the like, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And by the way, that guy over there, whoever it may be, unless Nikki Haley has a massive surprising surge in the polls, I'm not betting on it, but we'll see. He is going to be way out of the mainstream on the vast majority of issues. Even if it's Ron DeSantis, he's, yes, less crazy than Donald Trump, or maybe I'd trust him more with the nuclear codes or something, but he still has policies that are way beyond even like most conservatives. I mean, he's way out of what the mainstream is. So that will still be the central part, I would advise in a year from now. But for now, it's like the stage of like, here's what I've actually done.
Yeah.
Jen, so recently there was this photo. It was Biden and McConnell in front of a bridge, and it was Kevin McCarthy and the chaos on the floor of the House, and it was this great contrast.
The Brent Spence Bridge.
The Brent Spence Bridge.
The famous Brent Spence
Bridge.
Bridge.
By the way, is a scary bridge. I've driven over many times because my husband is from Cincinnati, and that thing is
rickety.
Rickety.
Same.
Well, that's why we got to fix it. That's why Joe Biden's going to fix it.
That's right.
But some of what Joe Biden gets, as you were saying, like some of this is T-ball, right? Like be against violence, be for democracy. How much would you have when Joe Biden's on the road touting infrastructure, touting climate and environmental infrastructure? How much would you have him enter the fight and start taking shots about what Trump and DeSantis and others are saying? And how much would you let the contrast speak for itself?
Well, I mean, when I was there, we didn't do that a lot, purposefully, right? And people can judge whether that was the right decision or the wrong decision, but part of that was sort of resettling the nerves of the public, right? So the first year plus, I left 10 months ago, almost to when I think there was starting to be a little bit of contrast right before I left, but we didn't really do much of that. We kind of let the crazy be the crazy, right? We didn't talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. We just let the crazy be the crazy. Now they've done it more, and they are, as a now observer of it, they've been still selective about it, but they've done it a little bit more. Obviously, as a campaign picks up, if he decides, presumably he's made every indication he's going to run, he runs, that will become more frequent, including when he's out there doing events. You got to be careful, the official, unofficial, official, political, all that kind of stuff. But I think it increases over the year, and that makes sense.
What do you make of this narrative that's out there now that Biden is moving to the center because of, they connect three dots here, the opposition to DC's criminal justice reforms, his support for the Willow oil drilling project, and now the rumored possibility that the administration may bring back family detentions. You've been in government like us, and you know that some things are political strategy, some things are just an unfortunate sequence of events that you have little control over, and sometimes it's a mix of both. So, but what do you make of it?
I think, without knowing where the third sits, I think the first two are a bit of an unfortunate sequence of events. I mean, the DC bill, which is complicated, hard for people to understand. There was a total miscommunication, which obviously there's warranted criticism. But the mayor of DC, Muriel Bowser, did not want that bill, right? Yeah. She also, so I don't know entirely what happened there, but the thing about Biden is and people like this, they don't like it, he's never been as progressive on issues around policing as some in the party might like him to be. I mean, he has been an advocate for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. He's been an advocate for reforms, but he has also been a defender of funding the police, and that puts it in his budget and things like that. And that's kind of part of who he is. So whether people like it or not like it, I don't think it's a shift, I would say. On the Willow Project, as I understand that in my reading, there is a legal component there that is a little bit tricky for them. That does not mean, as we all know, it makes it easy to explain, and it feels bad, it sounds bad, it feels contradictory, but the legal stuff can be a real pain in the neck when you're in the communications team, and I think it's a case of that.
Yeah, sometimes having to follow the laws are real pain.
It's a real tricky wicket. Yeah.
That's why the Trump people are just like, fuck it. We're not going to do it.
It's a great strategy.
We're not, right. We were still like, we cannot violate the Hatch Act. We will not, although I guess I got in trouble once, whatever. But I got a sternly worded letter.
Uh-oh.
But, they were like doing their campaign rallies on the South Lawn, right?
Yeah.
We were like,
and then with
I'd see an attorney general in the hallway, and I'd like move the other way.
Wasn't the convention speech on the lawn?
And then it was like, and then they're like, you violated the Hatch Act. Pay us $500, which means it's just a $500 fee for breaking the Hatch Act.
There you go.
Go ahead.
So Jen, you're listen. I think anyone who watched you at the podium knows that you are not only brilliant, but incredibly patient and kind to even very dumb questioners, but you're also a tough cookie. We were in a lot of campaign battles. You shut up. We were in a lot of campaign battles. That was to love it.
Do you owe Jen money?
No, we were in a lot of fights with Jen in political campaigns. We saw her knife fighting, sticking it to opponents behind the scenes, dropping oppo. So now that you're at your new perch, is there anyone at CNN that you want to talk shit about? Jake Tapper, Anderson Cooper.
Let's start a fight.
Has Aaron Burnett actually been behind this whole time? Like, who should we go after?
No. Jake Tapper, friend, was at my wedding.
He'll come for you.
I don't know. I hope not. I love his wife, who's like even the better member of the family. Yeah. I think that's fair to say.
Agreed.
He'll probably attack you for saying that.
Yeah.
Who was the other
I'm uncomfortable with this whole
Anderson
conversation.
Cooper?
Anderson Cooper.
Not like Anderson Cooper. He's like, he's no.
All right, we'll do this offline, and we'll
appreciate
reporters.
it.
You mentioned it feeling like the first day of school, like have Rachel and Chris and Nicole Wallace let you sit at their lunch table.
Oh yeah, is there a cool kid table?
Occasionally, I do offer snacks.
Okay, that's
no, they have been really great. I mean, I have gotten amazing advice from all of them. Nicole Wallace like brought me to one of her staff meetings, and I just like watched it all happen when I in my first couple of weeks. Rachel sat with me when I was going through the teleprompter. She may have in her head been like, "Ooh, she's not good at this," but she didn't say that. She was very helpful. Chris has walked me through how he prepares for shows. Everybody's a little different, right?
Yeah.
But
Right, because famously Chris Hayes, you're not allowed to look him in the eyes. But other than that, as long as you don't break that rule.
Experience. No, they've been all really great. I will say there would be a really amazing, because I started months ago. I feel like there was such a long lead up. I think people were like, "Are you actually going to have a show? Or are they like humoring you a little bit here?"
Yeah.
Which I feel like I got versions of that question sometimes. But because I started in September, I had time to kind of get to know people and spend time with people. And I went to visit most of the anchors in their offices, which there would be an amazing, I'm like, I don't know who I'm pitching this to in the world, magazine piece, some sort of story about their offices, because it's like they're everything you want them to be. Ooh. You know, I mean, like Chris Hayes has like a stack of of magazine articles. You're like, of course you do. And you've probably read all of them. That's annoying, but it's like what I wanted it to be. You know, Lawrence O'Donnell has like a portrait of like a member of Moynihan who he once worked for.
That tracks.
I mean, it's just Ari Melber's office is like, looks like it's in a law firm. I mean, it's all the things you want them to be.
Yeah, he's got Biggie's ashes.
Their offices are.
It's just like Lovett's desk is exactly what you'd expect as well.
Yeah, just a pile of shit. Just
some
empty
Snickers,
color coded.
All right.
Your show is fantastic. We are so proud of you, and so happy for the early success that you've had. Please come back to Pod Save America anytime. Jen Psaki.
I will, and you guys come on my show.
Yes, anytime.
Bring the dog. Bring babies. Babies are welcome.
Great. We'll bring
cool spouses are welcome.
I mean, I've already been on, but no offense to you guys.
Oh, wow.
That's why it was so nice.
That's why it's so nice, yeah.
Right. Well, you know.
All right, one of these days.
Anyway, thank you guys so much. It was great to see you all.
Thanks, Jen. Bye.
Sanderson hit Gwyneth. I'm telling you. Sanderson took Gwyneth out. He took her out, and then I'm telling you. Are we still recording?
Yeah, sure.
Gwyneth Paltrow is being railroaded. Don't believe TikTok. She is the victim.
Wow.
Everybody
Standing
turned
up
on.
for Gwyneth.
Okay, give us 60 seconds on
60
this.
seconds. Here we go. Okay, so basically, here's what I believe happened, having watched so much of this trial. And again, because I don't want to be sued, because this guy's litigious, I am just sharing my opinion.
Allegedly.
My opinion. Now, he claims that he he claims that Gwyneth knocked him over with such force that he broke ribs and got a concussion. The problem is he doesn't remember that happening and does not deny that when the collision happened, Gwyneth Paltrow said, "You hit me," and he said, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." The eyewitness was 40 feet away and was confused about whether or not Gwyneth was wearing a helmet. In fact, denied that she was. She was. Gwyneth's story has been incredibly consistent that this guy hit her. Not only that, all the reports by the ski instructors and ski patrol, everyone verified that the story was Gwyneth was hit, and the report that the ski instructor filed when he got to the bottom of the hill was that Gwyneth was hit. What happened was, right as the ski instructor was skiing away from the scene, after everyone was said to be okay, and everybody was done, he turned and he said, "Your buddy just took out Gwyneth Paltrow." And then he got stars in his eyes. Then the dollar signs started showing up. What happens? He lays back down, says he needs help. We're off to the races. When Gwyneth got to the bottom of the hill, before she knew she was going to be sued, she texted, "That guy really hurt me." You don't send that text if you hit somebody else.
Today's Pod Save America is brought to you by Goop.
Yeah, what Hollywood producer guy, what Hollywood publicist got to you?
I don't love the jade eggs. I don't love the jade eggs, and I don't love bone broth for lunch, but I know an innocent person when I see one. All right, I'm calling balls and strikes here.
Justice for Gwyneth.
Justice for Gwyneth. I hope she wins that.
Are you in the J6 chorus going to record a Justice?
G6.
The G6. The G6. We're part of the G6 chorus. I'll sing it. I'll sing it.
Get ChatGPT to write some lyrics.
And one last point about this. One last point about this is I will say that Gwyneth's performance on the stand.
This is more preparation than you did for the whole fucking
Gwyneth's
pod.
performance on the stand is the best is one of the best performances she's handed in since Shakespeare in fucking Love. She is exquisite on the stand. She makes these lawyers look like fucking dunces.
Someone compared it to a Xanax versus an Adderall. The lawyer being the Adderall is very funny.
Look, here's the thing. That poor lawyer that was trying to interrogate Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm sorry. You may be the best they've got in Utah, but this is Hollywood good. You're not going to be able to take Gwyneth down a peg.
This is Oscar good.
All right. I can tell you is the truth, said
Did she
Gwyneth.
win one? I don't even know.
She did win an Oscar.
Okay, good.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Hint Water. Looking for a beverage that tastes great but that is also good for you? Hint is pure fruit-infused water with 0 sugar, 0 diet sweeteners, 0 calories. The biggest issue now is keeping all your family and friends. What?
Hey, John, are you fruit infused? And would you like to be?
Wow. That's not what I expected you to say.
Me neither.
Also, why are you dressed like you're going duck hunting?
Don Jr. over here.
Really?
Biggest issue now is keeping all your family and friends
Coastal libs.
from drinking your favorite flavors. Oh, yeah.
I gotta be in a duck blind after this.
I like when you attack us from the right.
Yeah. Hint water's great. It's all over the office. We've all been drinking it.
Yeah, I want some.
I don't know what else to say. It's water, but it's fruit infused.
Get a little touch of flavor.
Yeah, but it doesn't have any of that artificial bullshit, you know?
Mm.
You can find Hint water at retail stores like Walmart, Target, and Kroger, or have it delivered direct to your door from hintwater.com. New customers can get Hint for just $1 a bottle with free shipping when they order 3 cases. That's 36 bottles for $36 and free shipping. Just use the code PSA at checkout. Pod Save America is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Friends, Crooked Media is hiring for various roles like video producer, art director, senior political campaign manager, and more. These aren't the easiest roles to fill. You need to have the right skills and experience, plus you should fit well within the Crooked culture. That's why when we need to hire, you know who we use?
ZipRecruiter.
It's ZipRecruiter. If you're a hiring manager and you need to hire, you should use ZipRecruiter too. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/crooked. How does ZipRecruiter help you discover great people for your roles? ZipRecruiter uses matching technology to find and send you candidates with the right skills and experience for your jobs. And if you see a candidate who'd be perfect for your job, ZipRecruiter makes it easy to send them a personal invite so they're more likely to apply. No wonder 3.3 million businesses have come to ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. Find the right fit for a wide range of roles with ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to this exclusive web address to try ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter.com/crooked. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/CROOKED. ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire. Pod Save America is brought to you by Cariuma, the cool, sustainable sneakers loved by surfers and skateboarders. They're reimagining classic sneakers with you and the planet in mind. Cariuma is a B Corp certified sustainable sneaker company. They're known for their reforestation efforts in the Brazilian rainforest. Their co-founders, Dave and Fernando, both grew up in Brazil, so this project's especially close to home. For every pair of sneakers sold, Cariuma plants 2 trees, and they've already planted over 2 million to date, which is great. It's great to plant trees.
You gotta plant them.
I'm a big,
You gotta plant
big
'em.
tree fan. Yeah, always have been.
Deforestation, bad. We're
Arbor,
against it.
Arbor Day is like Christmas
Trees
in my
do
house.
self-plant, but it's slow, and they're not as good at it as us.
They don't
They're
have
not.
hands. It's true.
Spring has officially sprung, and we're trading out the boots and cold weather kicks for something a little lighter and brighter. Crafted with
Their plan is like we just hope squirrels forget.
Yeah, spray and pray.
Crafted with organic cotton canvas, their bestseller Akalo is sure to become your staple shoe of the season, and lucky for you, they just cleared a 77,000-person waitlist. With 10-plus colorways, bold prints, and collaborations with brands like Avatar, Pantone, and the Peanuts, there's a pair for every personality. With over 33,000 5-star reviews, there's no wonder this ultra-comfy and celeb favorite style is flying off the shelves. Biggest difference between these sneakers and your old sneakers, Aka is actually comfortable with custom-designed cork and memory foam insoles to ensure a perfect fit. We love Cariumas.
Got tons of them.
Just recently got 2 new pairs.
Nice. Congrats.
Nice. Hey,
Yeah, I hadn't had them in a while, and now I got my whites
what
and my
colors?
grays.
Yeah, all right.
Cool.
Cariuma ships all their sneakers free and fast in the USA and offers worldwide shipping and 60-day free returns. They deliver right to your door.
You call them whites and grays. Trump calls them his base.
That's good. That's good. Using single box recycled packaging.
That's funny.
And for a limited time, Pod Save America listeners can get an exclusive 15% off your pair of Cariuma sneakers. Go to CARIUMA.com/crooked to get 15% off. That's CARIUMA.com/crooked for 15% off only for a limited time. Donald Trump held his first big rally of the 2024 election in Waco, Texas this weekend, right in the middle of the 30th anniversary of the deadly standoff between federal agents and a cult that right-wing extremists still view as a symbol of government overreach.
I also I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do think this, before we even get into it, I don't want to cover it while we talk. I think people are reading too much into Trump going to Waco, thinking it's about federal government violence, when he just think it was cool that David Koresh fucked all those guys' wives.
Wow,
Oh,
did not, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to make like a cult joke, but
David
that was
Koresh
interesting.
did do that, though.
Sorry, keep going.
Everyone know who David Koresh is out there in our audience? Yeah.
That was the Waco thing, right?
Yeah, Leader of the Branch Davidians.
bunch of elder millennials.
That happened in 93.
That's 30 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
The twice impeached Republican frontrunner played footage of the violent insurrection he incited at the rally before it started. You always want to start the rally with just some January 6th footage behind
play the
you.
hits, right?
Mm-hmm.
They also played the song he recorded with a group of men who've been imprisoned for their role in the January 6th attack.
The J6 choir.
The J6
Please
choir,
name
of
them.
course.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. Donald Trump, the fourth tenor.
You have to joke about it because what else are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Trump also talked about his potential indictment for the first time. We're waiting for it. It's coming any minute. Who knows? Andy, you're going to let us know if it happens during the pod, right, Olivia? Okay, great. Thank you.
When he finally gets arrested, he's going to be like, I called that a week ago. Old news.
Anyway, here's how he talked about it at the rally.
The Department of Injustice in Washington, D.C. was investigating me for something that is not a crime, not a misdemeanor, not an affair. I never liked Horseface. It's just not. It's a terrible thing. That wouldn't be the one. Legal scholars can't believe what they're witnessing. And yet, after going over 11 million pages of documents, I built a great company. They've got nothing. Think of it. 11 million pages. And my tax returns on top of it, and they're a big return. It probably makes me the most innocent man in the history of our country. Friends of mine say that. They're not coming after me. They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way, and I'm going to be standing in their way for a long time. You will be vindicated and proud, and the thugs and criminals who are corrupting our justice system will be defeated, discredited, and totally disgraced. That's what's happening. From the beginning, it's been one witch hunt and phony investigation after another. Either the deep state destroys America, or we destroy the deep state. That's the way it's got to be.
That's the bumper sticker right there.
The first clip of him sounded like someone doing an impression of him. It really got that kind of rumbling grumble.
It's going to be really hard to tell the real Trump from the AI Trumps.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
So Trump said all of this after last week's Truths, where he threatened that there could be, quote, death and destruction if he's indicted. And in another Truth posted a picture of him waving a baseball bat next to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who, by the way, has now received death threats, including a letter threatening to kill him with a powdery substance that's still being tested. How concerned are you guys about the potential for violence if Trump is indicted? We've talked a lot about sort of the legal case, the politics. We haven't talked a lot about the potential violence yet.
Yeah, but there's also a bomb threat at the courthouse.
Yeah.
The Trump fora on the internet, already a pretty hellish place, has gotten pretty violent.
Yeah.
The letter with the white powder said, Alvin, I'm going to kill you, followed by many exclamation points, which you'd think you could just use a period when you include the white powder.
Well, no, not in 2023, because, for a certain cohort,
It seems passive-aggressive.
Passive-aggressive. Every sentence is exclamation point at this point. So that's probably what that is.
Careful with the
I am
overuse.
quite concerned about violence. I am, I think, heartened by the fact that the initial call for protests were met with mockery from some people on the far right. They were like, we got arrested last time. This dude hung us out to dry. No way. But it only takes one deranged person.
Yeah.
And
that's the problem.
in Cincinnati, a few days after the FBI searched Mar-a-Lago, a Trump supporter showed up at the field office with a rifle and was killed.
Yeah, it's the, we've already been through Trump at the height of his power, causing a January 6th that wasn't able to do anything to disrupt our government, but did do a lot of damage and hurt and killed a lot of people. He can do the same thing here. Just takes one person having their radio tuned to the Trump frequency to show up and cause some chaos, which is clearly what he wants, which is why he's escalating. He was disappointed with the response, so he needs to sort of turn the heat
Yeah,
up.
it does feel like that.
To your point, Tommy, about how some of them don't want to be arrested because, or some of them are worried because, the last group of people who did this got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's like, a lot of them on social media are warning that this is like an FBI, these protests in favor of Trump would just be an FBI trap, that they're just hoping to get people to those protests so that they can arrest them. But it does show that like what the federal government and law enforcement did after January 6th what it is a
Absolutely.
deterrent. It's clearly a deterrent.
Turns
for a lot
out
of these people.
locking up violent protesters is a deterrent, or violent insurrectionists, rather.
Which is why it's so important that happened.
Yeah.
And it does also matter that Trump does not currently have the ability to pardon any of these people.
Yeah. And I also think, by the way, that Dan and I talked on Thursday about how Joe Biden obviously doesn't want to be getting into the legal analysis of this case or talking about the case and other Democrats. But I do think, and you've seen some of them do this already, that speaking out about Trump trying to incite violence again is probably an important thing for a lot of Democrats to do. And I don't think that Joe Biden needs to plan a speech about it. But if asked about it, I sure would make a comment.
Yeah, I mean, Trump called Alvin Bragg at the Waco event absolute human scum. And that is textbook dehumanizing language, and language like that historically has been a prelude to violence of some sort. So even if it's par for the course for Trump.
Yeah, and I think Biden elevated this issue in the run-up to the midterms, and I think it was the right thing to do. It was the smart thing to do, and it also lets people know that this threat is serious, and it's not just Trump spouting off, which it can be easy to think. Why do you guys think Trump and MAGA politicians are so obsessed with the January 6th rioters? Last week, Marjorie Taylor Greene and some others led a Codell to visit January 6th rioters in jail.
What do you think?
I mean, these are his shock troopers. These are the ones he could count on in his darkest hours to travel to D.C. and in some cases physically fight for him. And I think what Lovett said earlier is right. I mean, there is this narrative out there that he's abandoned them, and I bet he's worried. He didn't pardon them. He just recently dropped a single when he was working with Kanye for months on this track, And so, I think it's part of knowing your audience. And back to the location of the rally in Waco. I mean, a huge slice of the Republican base has this fetish for these right-wing anti-government groups. David Koresh in the Waco standoff was a source of inspiration for them. Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, who killed 168 people, said that his terrorism was retribution for the Ruby Ridge and Waco standoffs. The quote was, "I wanted the government to hurt like the people of Waco and Ruby Ridge." And so, they can say that this was an accident. Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, was like, "Oh, Waco is centrally located. That's why we told him to go there." Do you believe that? I don't believe that.
Yeah,
It's
So it's
like a
why
message.
why it's such a bustling metropolis, and it's why the biggest city in Texas, because it's so centrally located, right?
Where all the votes
The
are,
fuck
yeah.
It's I also do it just for that rally. We'll talk about who did and didn't get applause, but the person who gets the most applause was actually Mike Lindell, which tells you that this is a group of people. They want their worldview to be perfect, and the only way their worldview can remain perfect and unsullied by any nuance or controversy or sense in which they might not have all the answers is if these January 6th insurrectionists aren't political prisoners. So they have to be political prisoners because that's the only way this whole story makes sense.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's what Trump is doing. He wants to muddy the waters on his greatest political vulnerability, which is, attempting a coup and inciting an insurrection. It would take down any normal candidate.
Hopefully it'll take
But, Teflon Don. But I also think for all of these, everyone in the MAGA movement here, grievance politics depends on these people being seen as victims of persecution, specifically elite persecution, and not perpetrators of violence, right? So they always have, in order to be aggrieved, in order for this to work, they always have to be the victims of some plot.
Trump's entire stump speech is about how corrupt and incompetent and, in some cases, evil the government is. And the message is very apocalyptic. And I imagine that kind of message resonates with this audience and with the defense of an event like Waco or an event like January 6th. So remember Clive Bundy, the rancher who had a standoff with federal agents? He got tons of support from Republican elected officials. Some of this useful idiots like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, but also from Dean Heller spoke out, someone who we think of as sort of a never Trump moderate. So yeah, I mean, Trump is fanning these flames very much at these events.
The elites are out to get you. The federal government's out to get
Deep
you.
state.
They have guns. They're coming for you. That's why you should have guns. I mean, this is a
And
whole...
you have Tucker on every night using the footage that McCarthy gave him to tell a story that isn't true about the fact that it was just a couple tours run amok. And that is
Trump shouted that out at the Waco
Yes.
event.
So everything is everything is feeding back to this idea that they are being unjustly held and prosecuted. Why? Because it was an insurrection. Why? Because Trump won.
I learned in prepping for the show that Roger Stone dedicated his 2015 book to, in part, the Branch Davidians who died at Mount Carmel.
Wow.
That is wild.
That's a deep cut right there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah. How was the rest of the book? Get past the fucking
to my beloved wife
dedication.
And to the Branch Davidians. Yeah.
So Trump got plenty of criticism for all this violent rhetoric, even from some of his Republican supporters and MAGA media friends. What do you think are, now that we've talked about how terrifying all of this is, what do you think are the political implications of making his various investigations and potential indictments the centerpiece of his campaign? He basically said the weaponization of the Justice Department is the central issue of our time. So let's talk about the political implication. Let's start with the primary, and then we can talk about the general.
So I watched the Waco remarks. It was a full 45 minutes of this grievance stuff, just endless. And I was so zoned out by the time I got to the end of the deep state section that I was halfway through the paragraph where he hit DeSantis, and I had to roll it back because I was like, wait, when did he get out of his fucking personal vendettas?
What speed were you doing?
I was at 1.75. Thank you for asking.
I did too.
Well, then you slow it back.
Full two, huh?
You slow to one. You slow to one, and he sounds like he's losing it.
Yeah, he
really sounds slow and drunk.
Well.
But he basically speaks like this for 45 minutes, and he goes, and so that's why they're attacking me for you.
rings a bit hollow.
It's just unbelievable. And so no wonder the audience basically was dead silent through the remaining 45 minutes of his speech, where he actually got to the message that his people are trying to get him to deliver.
It's interesting. We've gone through sort of this cycle where for a while, basically all of last year and in the rep to the midterms, every Trump speech was all about Trump and 2020 and how the election was stolen from him. And then he went on this little burst of, I'm going to announce extreme right-wing policy to get to the right of DeSantis on all this culture war stuff. And I'm going to talk about policy a little bit. And now this speech, he's just got right back into it's 80% me grievance, 2020 insurrection, now my prosecution, indictments, all that kind of stuff. And 20% other shit.
Yeah. And he gets to the message, which is the anti-DeSantis, the pro-Trump anti-DeSantis policy message is the one he put in that long statement he put out about DeSantis, which is a very tough and very sort of clearly well thought out hit on DeSantis. And he ran through it in full. But by the time he got there, these people have been standing out in the sun for hours. Trump. The plane landed and he sits there for half an hour on the plane having lunch. Doesn't give a fuck what happens to these people.
And did you notice how he does the full speech and then they play this new sort of soundtrack, this sort of orchestral movement, and then he just sums the whole thing up for like another 7 to 10 minutes and does it all again? But John, to your point about like primary versus general message, I mean, I just think Donald Trump views every battle or every war is just a series of short-term battles, and he doesn't really care about the day after that. And so in the primary, this does let him get back to just dominating every news cycle. And now everything, once again, is a litmus test about how much other Republicans are supporting him against this unfair, like deep state movement against him. And notably, one of the biggest applause lines at the Waco event was an attack on Mitch McConnell, and then it's followed up by Marjorie Taylor Greene getting like rapturous applause. Nobody cares that Mitch McConnell has done more to advance the things they ostensibly care about than any other Republican alive, and that she has done nothing. So if he wins the nomination, I think like this kind of crap is what moderate voters will not like, or at least like least about him, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the latest polling from January of this year, right after the anniversary of January 6th, Data for Progress showed 74% of all voters think Trump supporters did the wrong thing by inciting violence and threatening our democracy. 17% think it was the right thing to stand up for Trump and overturn the election results.
It's overwhelming, but you'd love that 74 to be higher.
I know. Well, among Republicans voters, 61% thought it was wrong, 27% thought it was right, which among Republicans, probably better than I expected. Still awful. So it is a loser in the general. Like, we just went through a midterm election where all of the election denier candidates who were extreme did poorly, where Trump was blamed for a lot of these losses, where like extremism, celebrating January 6th, talking about the stolen election, it was just a loser. for Republican candidates.
Well, and also he's getting some I think unhelpful feedback from what this crowd likes. I mean, these are internet addled goons and dead enders. You know, these are people with gold under the stairs. Just absolute lost fucking souls out there for 5 hours.
You sure that's the wrong move right now?
the Grateful Dead had roadies, but the people who went to the Waco show, like, those were the diehards.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
See him at Waco? It was amazing.
You weren't at Waco. No.
I'm talking about 23 Waco, not 93 Waco.
Starfire at Waco
true
is
fans
incredible.
are at 2023 Waco.
Did you drop acid at Waco Trump event? Yeah, of course I did.
I will say, on Thursday's pod, Dan and I were talking about like what the potential indictment what effect it might have in a Republican primary, and I was saying that like there could be two reactions from sort of Desantis-curious voters, right? People who are open to an alternative to Trump, right? Mm-hmm. And one could be, well, this is all about electability. More indictments for Trump means even more baggage. Can't we just get Trump without the baggage and nominate DeSantis? Or it could be, you know, the liberal elite institutions and the deep state are out to get Trump, and we have to defend Trump, even if we think maybe he's not maybe we're tired of Trump. We're going to stand by him. And sure enough, Semaphore at the rally interviews this 55-year-old Latina woman who said she'd been flirting with voting for DeSantis, but was disappointed in his response to Trump's potential indictment and would now keep her vote with Trump.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. We were talking about this on Pod Save the World. It's a great show that comes out on Wednesdays. We talked about all sorts of foreign policy news. And
seems like you veered sort of into other shows' territory there.
Max Fisher, the newest contributor here at Crooked Media, did a sort of talked to some political scientists and like looked at the landscape of countries that have or have not prosecuted presidents, and they said that where it was effective was often more developed democracies when the list of charges kept adding up and up and up and up, and people were finally like, okay, like Jacob Zuma in South Africa, like there were like 13 charges against him, and people were like, all right, well, he's got to be guilty of one of these.
That's interesting. Well, maybe
so these are diehards. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, I'm hoping that woman that Semaphore interviewed is reflective of what you guys were just saying, which is the feedback he's getting from the folks at these rallies. These are the biggest.
Yes, I also do think we are. It is March of 2023. We're almost a year out from any actual voting, and there's a difference between, of course I support them, and it's getting close. I support them, and I'm going to cast my vote for this person.
Pod Save America is brought to you by HelloFresh. HelloFresh makes mealtime easy with delicious recipes made with fresh, wholesome ingredients delivered to your door. No lines, no hassle, just great tasting meals you can whip up and enjoy in the comfort of home. With the cost of groceries going up, now's the perfect time to get started with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. HelloFresh has 40 weekly recipes to choose from for all meal occasions, lifestyles, and preferences. Take your pick from meals like soy glazed salmon with rice or mushroom and chive risotto. Sounds good.
I'd eat that. I'd eat that right now, in fact.
Eat that right now.
Very hungry. You can even customize select meals by swapping proteins or sides or adding protein to a veggie dish. March is National Nutrition Month.
Obviously.
Wow. And HelloFresh makes it easy to choose delicious, dietitian-approved meals. Simply look for the Dietitian Win tag on their menu choices for meals under 700 calories and with 1/3 less sodium. We love HelloFresh.
So good.
Can't stress how wholesome the ingredients are.
So wholesome.
Love it. Didn't you network comedy.
Didn't you make soy glazed salmon with rice?
You bet I did. And it was great.
How'd it turn out?
Really good. It's easy to follow the instructions. Takes only a few minutes. Next thing you know, salmon.
Next thing you know, salmon. Go to HelloFresh.com/crooked60 and use the code crooked60 for 60% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/crooked60 and code crooked60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Pod Save America is brought to you by Helix Sleep. Helix Sleep is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences. The Helix lineup includes 14 unique mattresses, including a collection of luxury models, a mattress for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. Everybody's unique, and everybody sleeps differently. That's why Helix has several different mattress models to choose from, each designed for specific sleep positions and feel preferences. So how will you know which Helix mattress works best for you and your body? Take the Helix Sleep Quiz and find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes, and your personalized mattress is shipped straight to your door free of charge. Love it. Took the Helix Sleep Quiz.
You bet I did. Don Lux, that's the one I got. And I sleep on it every night. And it's a nice part of my life. Oh, how comfortable. Boy, oh boy.
Don Lux?
Don Lux.
Yeah, I knew her. Jesus. It's a great mattress.
Keep going.
Well, we are actually in the market for a mattress for our guest room. But like, who takes the quiz? Because it's not for me or Emily or Charlie. It's just for a guest.
Got to crowdsource it.
So yeah, maybe we'll crowdsource it. Plus, Helix mattresses are American-made and come with a 10 or 15-year warranty, depending on the model. Don't want to take our word for it. Helix has been awarded the #1 mattress pick by GQ and Wired magazine. It's even recommended by multiple leading chiropractors and doctors of sleep medicine as a go-to solution for improving your sleep. Helix is offering up to 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/crooked. This is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Pod Save America is sponsored by BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. How's your journey, guys?
Oh man, ongoing.
Putting some wear and tear in these shoes.
It's like Zeno's paradox. I feel like I'm always halfway there.
Yep, that's right. But you know what? Sometimes there's only one set of footprints, and that's because
your therapist is carrying you the other.
I was going to say John and I were carrying him.
If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. We love therapy here. We are the Therapy Boys.
Yeah.
Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/PSA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PSA. Trump also continued to go after Tiny D at the Waco rally, who is currently his only real primary threat. But the crowd wasn't really into Trump's DeSantis impression. Let's listen.
When a man comes to me, tears in his eyes, he's at almost nothing in the polls. And I said, I can't give you an endorsement. There's no way you can win. You're dead. I said, you can't win, can you? How do you can win? Sir, if you endorse me, I'll win. Please. Please, sir, endorse me.
You know what's funny is I've heard him say this a couple other times, and it's a classic Trump. He was almost had tears in his eyes. Now it's he did have tears in his eyes. Next week it'll be like
he was on the top of the bridge.
He couldn't breathe.
He was on the top of the bridge, and I said, "Get down, Ron! Get down, Ron! I'll endorse you."
You want to jump off Epcot?
So the crowd's muted reaction was noted by many media outlets, including none other than Fox News. Right-wing pundit Mark Levin tweeted, quote, "Conservatives don't like or want the personal mocking."
Yeah, right.
You guys buy that?
They love it. They love the personal mocking.
These guys are out there. Look, this is not to me. People can read whatever they want, but what I saw was a crowd that was bored as fucking hell. Just like truly done.
Also, what's most interesting to me is the coverage of the response is muted versus the reality of when I finally listened to the clip. Like, there was some giggles and laughing.
They're
like,
into it.
It's not the stage of to your point about it only being March, it's not the stage of the primary yet where any crowd is going to start clapping and applauding for a hit on another, for another candidate of the same party. That's always the case in primaries, at least at the beginning.
He's softening them up.
Yeah, he's warming them up. I mean, pretty soon he'll treat him like Mitch McConnell. It'll be like cocaine Ron, wouldn't support me.
Photos with those girls. What was that about? I don't know. That's what's coming.
That's getting better.
I do think it's fascinating though that Fox, Mark Levin. There was also an editorial in the New York Post saying that what is Trump doing? He's inciting violence.
Interesting. Murdoch properties going all in on this.
Yeah, it's interesting that the Murdoch properties are going all in on DeSantis.
Well, he's Rupert's just recently got engaged. He's feeling kind of jovial,
New lease on life.
Thinking about maybe he's not as interested in a fascist takeover of global democracy.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about DeSantis, who's hit a bit of a rough patch before his campaign has even begun. Guy hasn't announced, already pronounced dead.
I'm frustrated, but I am frustrated that I have to be frustrated on behalf of Ron DeSantis.
I know.
Please go ahead.
You've always had a
the
soft
troubling
spot for him.
dynamic.
It sucks.
I know.
Him.
All right, so here's a sampling of stories from over the weekend. Ron DeSantis' donors and allies question if he's ready for 2024, NBC News. Some Republicans fear that their non-Trump savior is showing signs of faltering, Politico. DeSantis looks to revamp strategy amid signs of political strain, The Hill. But a new set of public opinion strategies polls show DeSantis leading Trump by 8 points in Iowa and tied in New Hampshire, though when you throw in the rest of the field, he's tied in Iowa and trailing in New Hampshire by double digits. But DeSantis does have the best favorability rating of any candidate in those polls, including Trump, and most other polls, national polls, have shown that as well. So what do you guys think is going on here?
So you dig into this, and it is, there's really nothing there. There's really nothing to justify this level of like narrative shift. You can say, all right, there was a Ukraine gaffe. That's absolutely true. He sort of fucked up a Ukraine answer and then did some cleanup. Yeah. Is that what we'll be talking about?
Said his carefully written statement was misinterpreted.
It was a questionnaire. It was a questionnaire. Again, Tucker Carlson offered a foreign policy questionnaire, and he filled it out, and then was like, "How could you misstate my record?
Take that out of context?"
Unbelievable.
But he's doing cleanup there. We'll be talking about that statement in a year, probably not. That DeSantis went from darling to dud because Trump sucked up the oxygen by attacking him, which suggests, like, when you said he was going to be the Trump slayer, did you think that was going to happen without Trump ever noticing? Right? Like, Trump is doing exactly what everybody would expect Donald Trump to do, and it's having an effect that everybody would expect it to have. If that means DeSantis' campaign has stumbled, it means it was never going to succeed. So that doesn't make any sense. And then the third piece of it is that DeSantis didn't go hard enough at Trump when he was potentially being indicted, but also DeSantis took the bait by going after Trump because of the potential indictment. Those to me are sort of the three main points. And I don't really, it's like, none of which is to me a real critique, and all of them are just sort of what was going to happen at this stage. So it feels like everything is just basically static.
What do you think, Tommy?
Look, it's obviously not a good thing for a politician to do their big book rollout and their national press tour and then see their national polling numbers just collapse. I mean, that's not great. I don't know why it happened. I think with these early state polls, the Axios leading with the head-to-head numbers is so stupid. It is not going to be a head-to-head contest in Iowa or New Hampshire. And in some sense, when you look at this not as a head-to-head contest, the numbers look pretty static from where Trump was in 2016. You know, like 39% in Iowa is very similar to the 39% in New Hampshire is very similar to the 35% Trump got in New Hampshire in 2016. So I'm just like, maybe we're all just like making too much of a bunch of polling from some random Republican firm that got leaked to Axios and misleadingly framed would be kind of my takeaway.
What I see is a race that has not really shifted. And I see DeSantis was the Trump slayer. Then DeSantis campaign stumbles out of the gate. And now we are set up for DeSantis, the comeback kid.
Oh, absolutely.
Which will happen in a couple of weeks. And I do think that...
Will it happen before he even announces his campaign, which is at the earliest is going to be June?
And all of this to me is like, you know, you look at I think you have to look at the trend in polling. And the only thing I see is in polling that shows DeSantis doing a little bit better in early states than he is nationally, is it tells you that the Trump support nationally is soft. And it does remind me of a lot of the polling we saw in early 2007, where you had Giuliani leading nationally, but you actually had McCain and Romney and Huckabee doing far better in Iowa and New Hampshire. And you had Hillary Clinton leading 100% every single poll,
literally until
September. Until September, and really mostly through
most of September too. Yeah.
Nationally, basically everything, and then in Iowa it was actually Edwards and Hillary going back and forth, but ultimately Obama taking the lead there, and then so it shows me that I think the race is actually pretty static, and Trump has the lead, but it is soft. That's how I see it.
On the polling, to Tommy's point, you can't take one poll from one firm as gospel. You can't take many polls from many firms as gospel. But from here on out, you should always pay more attention to the state polls than the national polls. Yeah. What the national polls are useful for is, as Lovett just said, trends. And, you know, Nate Cohn did a piece in the New York Times about this. You know, all in all, DeSantis has gained about 4 points on average over the last month that warrants all this, you know, crazy narrative shifting. So I'm with you. I think it's a pretty static race. Dan had an interesting theory in his message box today about all this, which is that Trump is just better at getting attention than DeSantis, or that anyone, maybe anyone that's ever been in politics. And I think at this stage in the primary, the candidate getting the most attention tends to do better in the polls. That's also partially explains the discrepancy between national polls where he's far out ahead and state polls where people have more to go on than just a national media narrative because they're starting to meet DeSantis and see more local coverage about these candidates.
And feel connected to their vote, the importance of their vote as an early state voter. Like national polls right now showing that Trump is leading, to me, is a very soft support for someone they want to rally behind because he's under attack by some Soros-backed liberal fucks in New York.
The quote that jumped out at me in this New York Times story about the Waco event was from a guy named Jeff Fiebert, who's like a farmer who's a diehard Trump person. He said, I like DeSantis, I do, but the ground that needs to be covered is going to take Trump to get it done. And that Trump reminds him of the kind of person who goes into the bar and knocks all the bottles off the shelf just to see where they land. That, to me, I thought was like a pretty good summary because this felt like DeSantis wasn't that kind of guy. And a lot of these Trump voters just want a nominee who will kick the shit out of the people they hate the most too, right?
Yeah.
The liberals, the media, the deep state. That's where I think, to the extent that I think DeSantis has screwed something up, I think that Republicans want a fighter. Trump is beating the crap out of him and he's not fighting back. And I know he's in a tough situation, but I don't think that's a great look for him in terms of voters who want someone who goes into a bar and knocks the bottles off the shelf.
I think the big question in this primary, which is why I still, in my heart of hearts, can't predict who's going to win this thing, is I think there is a cohort of voters who are exactly as Tommy described. And I think they make up the core of Trump's base. I think there's a core of voters who've decided they're done with Trump. They don't want anymore. And then I think there's a key group of voters in the middle here who were like, much like that woman that was interviewed at the rally, who were like, I love Trump, always will love Trump. I'm kind of open to someone else, kind of worried that he's not going to be able to win again. And I'm not sure for them the fighting thing is as important as it is to the Trump base voters. But I do think what's important to them is like getting to know Ron DeSantis and seeing him and stuff like and Trump's just going to blot that out, particularly, I guess, if all these indictments come.
When I was just going back and looking at the polling from 2007 and 2008, one thing that pops up is McCain for a while was counted out. You had Giuliani leading, maybe Romney was going to take it. But then all of a sudden, as you head into the fall, there was a bunch of polling that started to show that McCain was the strongest general election candidate, that Romney was getting destroyed by Edwards and even Clinton, but McCain was always the strongest general election candidate. And as we get closer, I think like the electability argument starts to play in, and that's where whatever's going on with whatever attacks they want to launch against the judicial system, the fact that Trump being under indictment starts to become a liability with independents starts to get into the conversation, and Ron DeSantis gets to start making an argument about electability and stability that will carry more weight as we get closer.
I mean, let's just say if you have a nominee on March 27, 2023, you're a weirdo. Most of the country does not care. They have not chosen. These are like the diehards that we're talking about. The one thing in this stories that did jump out at me as relevant is the big donors pausing contributions. There's the Uline family, this like right-wing billionaire family that just pumps money into the worst causes you could ever imagine. It did sound like they're pausing on their checks, according to some outlet. I forgot who reported it.
I also thought, and there's some real galaxy brain takes going on here from some of these Republicans in the NBC story. There was one Republican operative who said DeSantis should have said in response to the potential Trump indictment, under no circumstances will the free state of Florida allow this political prosecution to take place. And then, according to that Republican operative, that would have made DeSantis look like the alpha and Trump look like the beta. Because DeSantis, to your point, then DeSantis would have been the tough guy because he can protect Donald Trump, and it would have driven Trump crazy. It's like, what is that?
This is the Charlie Kirk thing. Charlie said,
really?
Florida should be a sanctuary state for Trump.
But the idea that somehow helps helps DeSantis.
There's a lot
it's just like a lot, and it is
alpha. Anyone who says alpha, it's just like people, these like Jordan Peterson broken-brained people.
Yeah, well, it does resonate with certainly a portion of that base. To your point about the electability argument, Lovett, it's hard for DeSantis to make that argument right now too, because if you look at the polls, like some polls he's performing slightly better than Donald Trump against Joe Biden, some he's not. Now, if we get into Trump under with multiple investigations and potentially multiple indictments down the road, and Trump's out there on the national news every day saying crazy shit, and then you start doing general election polls and Joe Biden's leading Trump by a good deal and DeSantis is closer, then he can start making that argument. It's just a harder argument for him to make right now. It's too early. Thank you to Jen Psaki for
Thank you to
joining
Jen
us.
Psaki.
Thank you
to Gwyneth.
To our Court TV correspondent, Jon Lovett.
That's how Savannah Guthrie got her start. You watch your tongue, pal.
I know.
Hey,
I know.
yeah.
I know
She's
she
a big
did.
shot now.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer though, unfortunately.
You're not. No,
But
no,
do you need
no
to-
one.
and
No
no-
one would be.
Wow,
Don't be-
there's the rub.
All right, everyone. We'll talk to you later. Love it. I hear you're going back out on tour.
Love it or leave it's going back on tour. You can get tickets right now. We're in the middle of the presale. Crooked.com/events. The code is errors because it is the Errors Tour. Do you get it?
Errors.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
Do you get it? It's our Errors Tour.
Didn't get it until today, but now I get it.
Tommy's a recently converted Swiftie.
Yes.
He has his midriff exposed for all of us to see. We are going to be traveling across the country. We're going to go to some places that where it feels good to be gay, some places where it could feel better. And we're going to raise money for Vote Save America's Fuck Bans, Leave Queer Kids Alone, parentheses, and adults and all of us, you absolute freaks, and parens, fund.
A lot
Along
of
the way.
brainstorming around that title.
Yeah, we could have trunked it, but we didn't.
We
didn't trunk it.
So you're gonna be on the road for a while. You're gonna be
Yep.
out of the office.
You bet.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
that's great.
All right. All right. Yeah. What do you guys?
We'll miss you.
Yeah.
Any chance you add some shows?
Yeah. I guess you guys have to. Guess you guys will have to figure out a way to make conversation between noon and 3.
Crooked.com/events. Go get your tickets.